This is my normal volume. I'm a loud person. Please don't put this in your bloopers. This would be really embarrassing.
I forgot I am still recording. Hey, this is Chris. Hope you're doing well, and welcome to Popcorn Finance, where we discuss finance and about the time it takes to make a bag of popcorn. Today, we're going to be talking about goals because for 2018, this year has been all about goals for the show, and I know a lot of you have been setting financial goals for yourself. I know I've set some for myself as well, and around this time of year, you go on Instagram, and all you're going to see is people talking about how great they did at their goals and all the things they accomplished, but you never see someone post about all the goals that they didn't actually meet. You're only going to hear the good stuff. So I figured that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about goals that didn't quite go as planned. But I didn't want to take all the heat. I didn't want to just talk about my failure. So I asked someone else to join me in the show to talk about some goals that they didn't meet. So I have Allison Baggerly, budget expert.
And failure expert.
I love the enthusiasm and pride you have in that. That's why you're here. That's why you're here today.
Yeah, I do really good at failing sometimes.
Well, that's what we're going to be talking about. So this is perfect because if you don't know, Allison, she's already been on the podcast. You're a former guest, episode 62.
62.
Talking about your debt payoff story, paying off over $110,000 of debt, which is very impressive. So you got a track record of meeting some goals right there. So we're not going to be talking about that today.
No.
That went well. We're going to talk about something else.
Let's talk about everything else.
Yeah. So before we get started, I wanted you to tell us, what is your goal setting process? How do you even go about, picking your goals and making them?
So I do monthly goals, but when it comes to the end of the year, I do really big end of the year goals for the upcoming year. And the way that looks like for me is I like to set goals with my husband. And so what I do is I trap him in the car where he can't escape. And it's usually when we're traveling to see family. And I get on my phone and we set goals for our family, our finances, our health, like fitness goals, and we kind of just go over things that we want to do. And we also, because I keep it all in a notes section on my phone, we review our last year's goals as well, which is kind of cool to see, if we met them. And then periodically throughout the year, I go back and we kind of talk about them a little bit so that way we can keep track of them.
No, I like that. See, that's my problem. I make goals, but I don't always write them down, so I have no idea if I met it or not. I guess it keeps me happy, but
yeah. Well, I think that if you just type it in a notes, you can always go back and look at it. We don't necessarily display them. I think it's wonderful to display them, but yeah, I can set a goal and I'll forget it in 2 weeks and I'll come up with some new goal. So.
Well, since you're just making goals left and right, what's one financial goal that you set for yourself that you didn't reach in 2018?
Okay, so we set a financial goal to fully fund 2 Roth IRAs, and that looks like sending over $900 a month to 2 separate Roth IRAs. And we started out strong, right? That January we sent it, and then in February my son had a ruptured appendix, and yes, and we had to pay all these medical bills, and so we paused our contributions to our Roth IRA, and we didn't start them back up until August. And then, so we sent money in August, September, to the rest of the year. And so that was a goal that we didn't meet. And it happened because of something that was unforeseen and it was an emergency. But I would definitely consider it somewhat of a failure in terms of that was a huge financial goal we had set for ourselves that we weren't quite able to pull through on.
Yeah, no, that's a big goal, but life happens a lot of the time.
Well, yeah. And when you least expect it.
Right? For me, the goal I set for myself this is a weird one because I met it and then I guess I unmet it because I had a goal of setting up a 6-month emergency fund. Mm-hmm. I met the goal.
Nice.
Right? I was like, oh, look at this. I'm great. And then I had some expenses that I didn't actually plan on, and I had to dip into the emergency fund because that's where all the money was. I didn't really put money aside for the other things I wanted to do during the year. And so I kind of unmet my goal.
Yeah, you were like, that goal, that was optional, right?
All that matters is you meet it, right? You don't have to maintain it. So.
Yeah. Ooh, that's actually a really good point. Meeting goals, but then maintaining them.
I do a lot with weight.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, ooh, that could be a fitness podcast too.
Right? This is multi-purpose.
That's right.
But I hope us talking about this lets people know that we're still laughing about it, even though we didn't necessarily meet these goals. It's not the end of the world. Things happen, and failure shouldn't set you back and make you beat yourself up because you didn't quite, meet that goal.
Right.
Because more than likely you made some type of progress. Even if you didn't hit it, you got close to it in some way, or closer if you wouldn't have set a goal at all.
Absolutely. It's like, even though we didn't fully fund 2 Roth IRAs, we half funded 2 Roth IRAs, and that's better than if we had never set that goal in the first place and written it down and said, this is something that's important to us. So it was a failure, but I'm like, you know what? It was a failure in that sense, but it was also still growth for us.
Exactly. And you know what? You can still take the progress you made and you can take that and roll it into a new goal for 2019.
Yes, you can.
It gives you some things to work with. So, Allison, how are you using that 2018 goal of funding those 2 Roth IRAs? And, you said you fell short. You didn't quite meet it. But how are you going to take that and roll that into a goal for next year? And then, are there any changes or things you think you can do differently to help you meet it next year?
Yeah, so we still want to fully fund 2 Roth IRAs in 2019, but I think that I'm going to give myself more grace for when things in life happens. We do have an emergency fund built up to cover expenses, but if God forbid something happens and we have to pause our Roth IRAs, I'm just going to say, you know what? This is okay. It's okay to have a season or several months in a row where I have to say, something else is a higher priority when it comes to my family's health or safety.
Oh, I like that.
Thanks.
Give yourself some grace, some room.
Yeah. What about you, Chris?
All right, so for me, I know now that one reason that I didn't actually meet the goal was because I didn't budget for the trips I wanted to take, because I didn't mention it, but that's why I didn't end up maintaining my emergency fund, because there's a couple of trips that I took this year, a couple of conferences that I went to that I didn't actually budget specifically for those. Mm-hmm. And so then I was like, oh, well, I guess I have to pay for this, right? So I ended up pulling it from the emergency fund.
And that's not an emergency.
That was definitely not an emergency. And so what I'm going to do for next year is I'm going to make sure I set aside money specifically for these trips, these events that I know I want to do, because I know in advance. They're not like, they weren't surprises. Yeah. I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't plan specifically for them. And so that's step one. I'm going to plan for those. And then step 2 is that I'm going to add to like my savings amount that I'm doing. So what I want to do is increase my savings by 1% each paycheck. So that way I can kind of gradually increase the amount of saving to help me get back, or get my emergency fund back to where it was before. So like, for example, if I'm saving $600 a paycheck, then the next paycheck I'm going to do $606.
Ah, that's a good idea.
And I'm going to keep bumping it up every paycheck to slowly increase the amount of savings, which will one, help me get to my goal faster, and then kind of build in this savings habit and allow me to increase it in a way that I probably wouldn't. I probably would have just saved the same amount every paycheck.
Exactly. I love it. What a great idea.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Alice. So I hope our conversation has encouraged all of you who didn't hit your goal to, don't worry about it. Hey, it's in the past. Move forward and take your experiences, take the habits that you have built up and use that to set new goals for the new year. And then also to, use that to improve your process.
Yeah. And give yourself grace.
Yeah. Very important. Thank you. Very important. Give yourself grace, because, hey, we all make mistakes. Life happens. You can't plan and predict for everything that's going to happen. So things come up. Don't beat yourself up. Just reset. And before we get out of here, though, I wanted to make an announcement. You look very excited over there.
Announcement time.
You're actually going to be hearing more of Allison in the future, because she's going to be adding a new segment to the show. Woo! So we're still working out the details. But Allison, as you can tell by her title, Inspired Budget, she's really good at budgeting. This is her thing.
I love budgeting.
You love it to a point where I didn't think it was possible to love budgeting that much.
It's almost weird. I mean,
it's borderline.
It is. Yeah. Sure. Well, it's past borderline, but that's okay. I own it. I'm going to own it. I love budgeting.
We need people like you who are so enthusiastic about things that people hate, because you're going to encourage us and you're going to give us some motivation, because you're going to be coming and you're going to be providing your budget tips for the listeners to help them get their budget on track, especially as we're getting into the new year. What does everyone want to do? They want to be better with their money. They want to make changes to their finances. And I think any responsible change to your financial life starts with a budget. That's what you're going to be doing. That's what you're going to be providing us with. So everyone, be on the lookout. You're going to be hearing more and more about this, and you'll be hearing more and more from Allison.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So you do know this means that you're going to have to definitely buy buy more popcorn and increase your consumption to have any type of credibility to be on the show. Just so
I
you know.
will do that tomorrow. This is a high priority for me. I'm going to go to the grocery store tomorrow, pull out my cash envelopes, buy some popcorn.
So in the meantime, before you're back with your great budget tips, where can people go to find out more what you're doing and kind of just familiarize themselves with Allison Baggerly? Where can they go?
I hang out over on Instagram at Inspire Budget, and I have a blog, inspirebudget.com, and I'd love for you guys to come on over and check it out.
All right, perfect. Make sure you do. I follow Allison, and I feel like I learn a lot. I get like little budget nuggets every time I hop on there. Budget nuggets, is that a thing? That sounds kind of weird.
I don't know. That was interesting. That budget is not. That phrase is not associated with me. That is truly Chris Browning's phrase only.
You know what? That sounds like when you go to like to McDonald's and chicken nuggets are on sale. Those are budget nuggets.
Budget nuggets. 4 for 25 cents, people. It's a budget nugget.
You know, as much as I enjoy those budget nuggets, that's how much people are going to enjoy Inspired Budgets.
Oh my gosh.
On Instagram.
Oh goodness.
Well, thank you, Allison, for joining me. And they're going to be hearing a little bit more. We have a special episode coming up after this. So I'm going to tease that out there as well. So
thank you for having me, Chris.
No, I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
Your boy keep it poppin' like Mary Poppins.